It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2007, or as I like to call it, one of the most anticipated years of the movie season. And I say that because there's a lot of big blockbusters coming out in 2007, and let's just say that most of them didn't quite live up to the expectations of most people at first. It took a little time for some of the movies that we're going to delve into through these next 52 weeks, but we're not going to get to any of those this week because this is the first weekend of the year, January 5th, 2007. And if you know by now, this is one of the dumping months and one of the worst dumping, probably the worst dumping month overall. Because this isn't like nowadays when studios are actually trying to put movies that they believe in the month of January. No. This is the time when the studios know how bad the movie is. They dump it out here. They put it just weeks after Christmas, hoping that the big blockbusters are going to get in the way of everything. And the three films we have here are definitely examples of studios really not believing in the films they have in here. But we'll get to all three of them as the show goes on here. But let's start with the biggest new release of them all, which really is not that big at all. It is Hilary Swank starring in the first of two movies from this director that she's in, Richard LaGravenese. That is Freedom Writers. Gee, haven't heard a movie like this before. I mean, there clearly wasn't any movies like Dead Poet Society or Dangerous Minds that had very much literally the same plot overall. No, this is refreshing and new, clearly. But believe it or not, this actually is probably one of the better movies to be dumped in the month of January when you really look at it. But you have Hilary Swank starring as a young teacher in a racially divided Los Angeles school who inspires her class of at-risk students deemed incapable of learning to learn tolerance, apply themselves, and pursue education beyond high school. Yeah, like I said, we've seen this movie done to death so many times before in the past. It's nothing new. It's literally nothing that we haven't seen done before time and time again in much better movies. But, like I said before, to their credit, this was actually not that bad. And I think it works mostly because of the acting involved in the movie. Where it really sticks out mostly is the performances, especially by Hilary Swank and also this young group of unknowns that they have in here. Plus, you got a lot of good seasoned talents in here. Scott Glenn, Imelda Staunton, Patrick Dempsey, Pat Carroll, of course, from the prolific voice actors from The Little Mermaid. Has done a ton of other stuff as well. But I mean, just a really good cast overall in here, and it's them that carries the movie together. It's them that gives this movie this elevated element to it that makes it a lot better than you probably think it would be. I mean, this is a film that could have easily just been a cliched, riddled, predictable mess of a film that just is just there to get a quick buck out of you, which at times it is, but at the same time, it does a very good job of delivering a lot of really strong performances and a good message overall about, let's have this, here's an argument for actually listening to teenagers and not in the way that we've seen done before with stuff like Dangerous Minds or Dead Poet Society or many of the other movies very similar to this, like Lean on Me, type that stuff. In fact, this is probably as close to something like Lean on Me than you probably would get in a long, long time. It's a movie that is, I think, a lot better than people have made it out to be. But, I mean, yeah, it's not a great movie per se, but it's a lot better than I think I give it credit for. I think it is a much better movie in terms of what they give you towards what is in the long run here, and not just it's just not another typical, been there, done that type of storyline here. It benefits from having a great cast that can really make this material get elevated to another level, and I think it works very well on those levels. Just know what you're going in for here, but know that you're going to get some really good performances out of it overall to make it a film that is actually a lot better than I think people let on overall. I think it's a much better film than most people thought it was. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be overall, and yeah, it's a good movie. Not a great movie, but for a one-time watch, I think it's worth it. So yeah, there's at least one decent film this weekend. The rest, not so much. Case in point, our next movie, Happily Never After. From the same studio that gave us Valiant, by the way, this is Vanguard Animation. They saw how successful Hoodwink was the year before, and of course they got one of the producers of Shrek and Shrek 2 involved in here, and they thought, we've got it. We're sold on this movie. It's going to sell to millions of people. I mean, we're going to come out on the first weekend of the new year. I mean, who cares about all the other family films that came out before during the holiday season? No, we're the top shit this weekend, and you are shit, but not the top shit. But as you can tell from the trailer, as the story begins, an alliance of evil fairy tale doers led by Frida looks to take over Fairy Tale Land and take control of. But when Ella, Cinderella, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, realizes her own evil stepmother is out to ruin her storybook existence, she takes a dramatic turn and blossoms into the leader of a resistance effort. You know, if you want to see a movie where Cinderella's evil stepmother is basically screwing her over, just watch Cinderella 3. It's only going to come out a month later, and let's just say that it's much better than I thought it was going to be, per se, and it certainly is a million times better than this pile of garbage. And this is literally a pile of garbage, wasting a lot of really good talent in here. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr., Patrick Warburton, Wallace Shawn, Andy Dick, George Carlin, Sigourney Weaver, of course, voice acting legends like John DiMaggio, Tom Kenny, Rob Paulsen, Kat Stussy, and it's just doing it with such a lousy script that is just taking everything from the Shrek movies and hoodwink and saying, hey, we can do the same thing with this, and no, you can't. You need a good story. You need a good sense of humor, and you can't just copy Shrek and think you're going to do the exact same thing that they did there and made more successful. This movie just isn't it. This is just a terrible, terrible film that is just Lionsgate trying to bolster up their family film library, even though the films that they have in that library are not very good. In fact, they're just table scraps that studios probably dumped in the dumpster bin, and Lionsgate's just like, yeah, this will work, because, because every other independent studio was doing that. The Weinstein Company was doing that before with, the year before with Dougal, coming out shortly after Hoodwink, which Hoodwink worked. Dougal did not, and Dougal didn't work for obvious reasons. This one doesn't work because it's just a ripoff of Shrek and Hoodwink, two much better films. And yeah, this is just not a good movie. The comedy isn't funny, the animation looks terrible, it's a waste of a really good voice cast, it's a mess. It's a mess of a film. The fact that people went to go see this movie and were duped by it just baffles me, but yeah. Not much more to say about this one, except, yeah, this is a pile of garbage movie that you should not see. Which I can also say for our last film that we have here, codenamed The Cleaner. Oh my god, that was horrible. I completely forgot how bad this movie was, but after seeing that trailer, I was just like, this is even worse than I remember it. So, Cedric the Entertainer plays Jake, who awakens one morning in a strange hotel room. He finds himself in a bit of a predicament. There's a corpse in his bed and a briefcase full of cash. Not only that, but he cannot remember who he is or how he got there. He meets a waitress played by Lucy Liu, who tells him he's a janitor at a video game company and that she is his girlfriend. But Jake believes he's an undercover agent for the CIA, and he tries to figure out the truth. Jake vaguely remembers a scene from a fight with several agents at his side. This vague memory leads him to believe that he's an undercover agent. The thinnest layer of a possible storyline in this movie, and man, what a disastrous movie this really is. This is a terrible movie on so many levels. The story makes no sense whatsoever. Nobody knows what their motivation is supposed to be. This is the prime example of what happens when you try to make a movie led by Cedric the Entertainer and you don't give him a movie to be entertaining in. Like, he's been entertaining in some movies. The Honeymooners, I thought he was very good as a side character. He's good in those roles, but this is Hollywood having no idea how to sell this guy to a leading role in a film, and let's pair him up with Lucy Liu and also Nicolette Sheridan, who's having a brief comeback because of Desperate Housewives. Because who wants to see that? And, there's just nothing here. The comedy isn't funny. I mean, you see it in the trailer there. Like, the comedy is just awful, and it's just cheap attempts at humor. Jokes that are so lazy and so put together. Bland sex appeal. Like, yeah, we get it. Nicolette Sheridan's sexy on Desperate Housewives. Let's just have her in some sexy lingerie. If you even want to call it sexy lingerie, but even then, that's not going to save the movie in general. Let's waste the talents of all these people involved in here. Let's have some really lazy action sequences because we don't have the budget to go all in and make this a much more fun movie in general. No, we can't do that at all because we're just making this movie because people will be stupid enough to go see it, and luckily, people were not stupid enough to go see this movie. If this thing crashed and burned at the box office, yeah, you can make the excuse that it was dumped in the month of January, but any other time of the year, this thing would have been completely destroyed by whatever competition came out. Just just an awful movie. Just an awful, awful movie. This is the prime example of a movie that deserved to be dumped in the month of January because it was that terrible. And this is legitimately one of the worst comedies possibly ever made. I mean, that's really hard to say because there's been so many bad comedies in the history of the filmmaking, but this is right up there with some of the worst comedies ever made. This is absolutely abysmal. Avoid this one like the plague. It's a terrible movie. Just don't watch it, man. Just don't watch it. And what a sad, sad way for Les Mayfield to go out after making some pretty good movies early on in his career, and then the 2000s was just so disastrous for him. Yeah, like I said, avoid this movie like the plague. Codename The Cleaner. Just avoid it. And so with all of that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we've got 3 more movies to look at on Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, including the breakout hit Stomp the Yard. We also have the ensemble Alpha Dog with Justin Timberlake, Emile Hirsch, Sharon Stone, and Bruce Willis among the cast, and also the horror film Primeval about a killer crocodile. So, oh, and also Arthur and the Invisibles, too. I just saw that was there, too. I guess it opened up in limited release a couple weeks prior, but this weekend it got the wide release. And speaking of movie independent studios taking whatever garbage they can out of the dumpster, here's one from the Weinstein Company, but we'll eventually get to that one. So we'll have 4 movies to look at next time around, not just 3. So Stop the Yard, Alpha Dog, Primeval, Arthur and the Invisibles. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode. Also, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button because you get updates on when new videos come out. We post them every day here, and that's how you get updated on them. But with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.